Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Cheree Warrick of the 10K Project. Cherie, it's awesome having you on the show.
Thank you so much, Gresham.
No problem. Super excited to have you on. And before we jumped in, I want to read a little bit more about Cherie so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's doing. And for close to 10 years, Cherie helped companies raise millions of dollars as a business plan writer. The most successful fundraisers already had a network of high net worth individuals and could raise millions within a few weeks of Cherie's completing their business plan. Her Black clients, most of whom had great ideas but didn't have these relationships, would struggle to receive funding. Cherie has a solution for this massive problem. She's building the largest community of Black small dollar investors who can help fund Black businesses. Cherie, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I am so ready. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me.
No problem. Let's do it. So to kick everything off, I wanted to kind of rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more about what led you to get started in your CEO story.
Sure. So my true CEO story started with a very controversial now person who is Robert Kiyosaki, unfortunately, and Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I was on track to become the CFO for a Fortune 500 company. That's what I thought I wanted to do when I was in college, right? And when I went to my first job, one of my coworkers gave me a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that totally changed my perspective. So I started off like most people do, doing things part-time. I, went out and flipped real estate for a little bit, and I got into other businesses, and I was really just trying to find myself, and ended up about 15 years ago, my mother, actually it was more like 18, 19 years ago now, my mother started a bookkeeping business. And I ended up joining her full time with her bookkeeping business, helping her grow it. I started off as her marketing person, and I was so good at marketing. I was bringing in clients, and then she said, well, you brought these clients and now you have to service them, and that wasn't in my plan. However, I worked with her diligently. I serviced clients. I did their bookkeeping, their accounting for them. And one of the interesting things is I got to see the patterns of the most successful business owners and those who weren't successful, and they couldn't lie to me because I saw their numbers. So it was interesting that I got to see that inside look at them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's extremely powerful. And I've always thought that was one of the best things to learn, because I think they say, like, if you're able to look at the numbers, so to speak, and read the books and understand the books, it kind of tells the story of the business. And I can imagine getting that opportunity to kind of work with probably different types of business owners at different stages and see all that. It's probably a really great foundation.
Yes, it was. It was. And I will give everybody a hint right now, because you are the I Am CEO podcast. The most successful people that at least were in our business, they sat down with my mother every single month without fail and reviewed their numbers. How much money were they making? How much money were they spending? What were their goals? And because of that, I kind of liken it to your weight. If you say, okay, I want to be X pounds, and if you get within 5 pounds of that range, you got to rope it in, and you got to cut out the sweets or whatever. Those are usually the most successful people with their health. Well, it's the same thing with your money and with your business success as well.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I'm glad you gave that kind of analogy as well, too, because I think anytime, as you said, the people that are the healthiest, so to speak, or reach those goals, a lot of times they're on the scale every day or every week and understand exactly where they are, what they need to do or what they don't need to do. And so many times we forget that about our business, is like how important those finances are, and ignoring them or looking at them maybe once a year doesn't cut it for those businesses that are truly going to be the most successful ones.
Right. And let me add on to that. Some businesses is not necessarily about dollars. A lot of times your finances is like the outcome. Some businesses, it's how many customer complaints are you getting? How many refunds are you giving to people? How many times you have to go back and explain things to certain people? There are usually, they're like lead factors and lagging factors. I'm sure your clientele and your listeners know about this, but looking, the numbers that we gave really were like the after effect to how people were effectively managing those leading factors within their businesses as well, and being able to say, okay, if I want to do better, I need to tweak these things on the front end. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to, I don't believe in people having a lot of different things that they're looking at, but usually I would say three metrics within any business. If you get those correct, then usually a lot falls into line.
Yeah, well, that's extremely powerful to know, and especially as you said, you've been able to kind of work and see those successful businesses and be able to kind of see those trends as you
Mhm.
kind of spoke to as well. And I know when I read your bio, I kind of touched on a little bit about what came about from seeing success and how it contributes to your venture now. So could you take us through the 10K project and tell us exactly what you're doing with the clients you work with?
Sure, sure. So actually, the 10K project started out because of my mother's bookkeeping business.
Mhm.
So at one point in my mom's bookkeeping business, she decided that she wanted to get a bank loan in order to she decided she wanted to get a bank loan. Let me just say that. And part of the bank loan, is you have to write a business plan. And I had written one for school, but I had never written one for a company to actually go and get a loan, right? Or get any kind of funding. And I just thought, oh my goodness, if I screw this up, what is Thanksgiving going to look like, right? And so what do? The first thing you do is usually you go to Google, right? Like how to write a business plan. And then I started asking, well, what are they really looking for? What do they make their decisions on? And long story short, I wrote this business plan for my mom. I gave it to a gentleman that had about 30 years of experience helping companies raise funding. He said, you did a great job, make these few tweaks and give it to the bank. And the bank said it was one of the best business plans they'd ever read. So at that point, my mother starts bragging, my daughter wrote this business plan and the bank said, and her friends and her clients started asking me, well, can you write my business plan? Fast forward to 10 years later, this is where we are. So I'm writing business plans for people, and some people still aren't getting funding. And I started asking, well, why? What is happening with the people who are getting funding from the ones who aren't? And people from other ethnicities usually would have someone that they could take that business plan to and say, this is, this is a plan, this is what we're going to do. And literally, my clients were getting $50,000 checks, $100,000 checks, $150,000 checks based on the strength of the team they had put together and the business plan that I had put together. I would have innovative, hardworking, great Black entrepreneurs, but they didn't have those individuals in their lives. I only had actually one who did, right? And
Mhm.
she got the check, right? Based on the business plan that I wrote. So I also saw that there was the resurgence of We Buy Black movement, right? And I started thinking if people were buying Black, maybe they would invest Black too. And for 3 years, I was saying this, 10,000 of us got together, we put in $100 each, that's $1 million. We could start funding our own businesses. But I'm telling you, Gresham, I was trying to get somebody else to do it. I'm like, somebody, please take this idea, please take it. And finally, one day in a meeting, one of my co-founders said to me, you're going to do something about that. And I think that's important as CEOs. You're saying something for so long. You have a great idea. You're saying it, you're begging somebody else to do it, right? And I was making good money as a business plan writer, but I wasn't having the impact that I knew I could have. And everything aligned where the right person said it to me, the right group of co-founders came in with me. They put money in. I put money in as well. So we were all committed. We all had our time commitment, our money commitment. And this was all the social unrest, pre-COVID, all of that. But I just kind of felt like the time was right. And that's the long story
Mhm.
of how we got here today. So.
Nice. Well, I definitely appreciate you and your co-founders for taking that mantle and definitely running with it. And even as you kind of talked about from when we started out with your entrepreneurial journey, your CEO journey, talking about Robert Kiyosaki and how important that knowledge is. You have that knowledge and being able to not just help out these business owners, but I think one of the most powerful things that at least I hear is that you ask why. Why did these businesses get funding? Why didn't these businesses get funding? And you didn't just do that, but you actually put those solutions in true entrepreneurial form in place to be able to help these entrepreneurs and business owners with great ideas.
Right, absolutely. So if you don't mind, I'd like to say that when we put the 10K project together, it wasn't just, hey, let's match investors, that
Mm-hmm.
have $100, $200 with businesses. We
Mm-hmm.
really did a deep dive and thought, what would what could we do to
Mm-hmm.
make the or help make the investors and the entrepreneurs as successful as possible? Because if we just throw $1 million at an entrepreneur who doesn't have a great team, who doesn't have a great structure, who doesn't have a great support system, it doesn't matter how great their idea is, they're not going to do as well, and our investors are going to feel deflated. So we were very purposeful about having three groups of people that we brought together. The first being the investors, the second being the entrepreneurs, and the third being those business specialists that help before, during, and after funding. So we're also creating a database of accountants, attorneys, digital marketing experts, writers, graphic designers, all sorts of specialists that are able to help entrepreneurs either part-time or full-time. So that when that entrepreneur has capital, they also will have the ability to have the support that they need. We also know that Black people are sometimes some of the most innovative yet underused business professionals out there. And I don't know how you believe, but I believe in Dr. Claude Anderson and Powernomics as well. How could we set up a system where, entrepreneurs who want to use other Black professionals have an easier way to find those professionals? So we're creating that as well. If you ever watch Shark Tank, one thing they always ask is who's on your team? And that's so important because even in COVID, the people who had the best teams and were able to sit down and strategize, okay, we're out because our main set of business is, wiped out for whatever reason. What can we do? And you have a group of people who are able to strategize and come up with some other ways of making money and bringing people through the door. Those businesses are making it. Not every business is shutting down because of COVID. Not every business is making less money because of COVID. There are some businesses that are doing as well, if not better, because of it. And that is because of a strong team that's put together in a lot of businesses as well.
Nice. I absolutely appreciate you for expounding upon that because I think,
Mhm.
like you just said, I mean, that knowledge that I kind of spoke to, you writing the business plan and seeing those kind of ingredients that led to success is so huge. And I think so many times, sometimes we can think that it's just the money, and obviously that is something that I appreciate you guys helping out as far as people be able to get that opportunity. But that's not the only thing, and being able to lean on the expertise, have that team in place is if not equally important, maybe even more important, because you have to know how to navigate and shift in trying times like we have now for some people, and then other times when times are great, you want to make sure that you're able to lean on those experts. So would you consider that to be what I call like your secret sauce, the thing you feel kind of sets you apart or the organization apart and makes it unique, or even for yourself? Do you feel it's that ability to be able to see kind of maybe the forest for the trees, to be able to see all those different aspects, ingredients that lead to success and be able to set that up in your organization?
Yeah, so I'm so glad that you started off the interview the way that you did because I'm 44 now. So when I was 22, 23, I was introduced to Robert Kiyosaki.
Mm,
And that's what, 20 years of experience of
mm,
making money, of losing money, of risking, of starting businesses. Some businesses failed, some businesses were successful. and really discovering some of the formulas to investing, as well as investing in private equity. Let me say that, in private businesses, right? Investing as well as entrepreneurship, and being able to say again, what can we do that one of the venture capitalists that we spoke with in the 10K project said that, everyone says that, 1 out of 10 businesses fail. Why are we accepting that as, as okay?
Yeah.
What can we do to make it that 6 out of 10 businesses make it? What kind of community, what kind of structure do we need? And there are companies like, for example, like Y Combinator, which is an accelerator, very well-known accelerator in the San Francisco area. Now they've been investing in companies since 2005. And the last time that I saw, at the end of last year, they had over 50,000 employees employed, and the valuation of the companies that they have invested in was like $156 billion.
Mm.
You know, um, what if we could do the same thing? Even if we did half of that, I would consider that a win. And even though there are 50,000 employees there, that doesn't account for all of the ancillary businesses, the accountants and the attorneys and people that aren't on staff that are also blessed and employed because of the work that Y Combinator has done. So yeah, I'm looking for the 10K project to have, those types of stories that we're bringing to the forefront.
Nice. I absolutely love that, and definitely appreciate you for breaking that down. And I think that understanding, and again, like kind of that entrepreneurial spirit is not in seeing a problem and saying, okay, well, that's just how it's going to be. That's just how it is. But it's saying, okay, how can we replicate that success, improve that success, and what things do we need to do to make that happen? And I appreciate you for doing that and creating this. I don't know if you want to call it a community, but I feel like it's like a
It is.
community, that opportunity to be able to kind of create these success stories.
Yeah, we're calling it an ecosystem,
Mm,
actually. So we do have it, our community, but
mm.
really we want it to be an ecosystem where people are able to come in. And another thing I hadn't even talked about was the knowledge center that we're putting together. So we have a knowledge center for investors. Um, to come and learn different things, from how to repair your credit to how to make more money, careers that can help you make more money, certifications that you can get, how to do, how to ace a job interview, especially in the age of Zoom right now, right? Um, and how to start your side hustles, different types of side hustles that people can start. And then also understanding how to do what's called due diligence or research on the projects that are coming on the platform. So there's so much that we want to teach people. For the entrepreneur side, we're looking at everything from marketing, sales, leadership skills, negotiating. A lot of times we don't know how to negotiate. We have a gentleman that we're hopefully going to be working with. He's like a 99% yes, who is going to work with companies that want to get their products on the shelves of Target and Walmart. He has done it for years, and he is going to work with companies that want to get their products on the shelves of Target and Walmart and Publix and other retailers. That's what he specializes in. Where can you go? Where do we as Black people go? The place to discover all of this and have all of this information and resources. And we want the 10K project to be that. And I will say this, it's going to take us a couple of years to really build this out. But yesterday, I got an email from a woman who is a part of the Georgia State Representatives. She's a rep in Georgia State, right?
Mm.
We're starting to get noticed by well-known people who have access to different types of resources. And what we want the 10K project to be is the hub for that knowledge, plus that access to capital, plus that access to some of the best experts in different areas where our entrepreneurs need it in order to be successful. So that's where we go from community to ecosystem.
Nice.
That's the big goal.
Nice.
That's the big
No, I mean,
goal.
I think it's nothing happens without to me, ambitious goals. And I think that that's how things start to be put into place. And I think having that ecosystem, understanding, as you kind of touched on, the interdependence of all the pieces as well too, and how it creates that kind of domino effect is something that I'm excited as well too about. And I'm super excited that you all are definitely rocking and rolling with that. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I
Okay.
wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could
Okay.
be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Uh, so 3 years ago, I hired a business coach to help me.
Mhm, mhm.
And one of the things she had me start doing was working out regularly. And now I'm at a point where if I don't work out 2 days in a row, I'm like, I need to get my power walk in. So I'm going to say power walking, 30 to 40 minutes a day. I use that time sometimes to listen to a podcast or listen to a piece of information that I need for my business. And then sometimes I don't have anything on and I'm just walking and praying and letting my thoughts kind of come to me. So that for me is a very powerful hack that I use that's effective.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And I think that just, in my opinion too, like having that activity creates such a foundational thing. And a lot of times we gloss over it and we can look into trying to tackle the next task or do the next thing, but we haven't, made sure our cup was full and made sure that we're doing those things which allow us to be able to serve even better and even stronger and more effectively as well too. So now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. And this could be a word of wisdom or a piece of advice. It might be somebody that you would give advice to within the ecosystem, or it might be something you would tell your younger business self.
Okay. Well, the one that I have at the top of my head right now is a quote by Henry Ford, and it's whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right.
Mhm.
Um, and what he meant by that is if you think you can't do something, then you can't do it. However, if you know you can do it, it may take you time to figure out how, but you know that, hey, I can move from point A to point B. I just need to figure out how. And sometimes the how is talking to different people who have done it, reading certain books, getting into certain rooms. Sometimes it is like, strategizing within yourself. Sometimes it's prayer. It depends on what it is. But if you don't mind, I want to tell a quick story. So
Mhm.
last night we had a call with a Black family who started a family bank. They started it in 1986. And now they have 7 figures in their family bank. It's an amazing story. Okay. And they actually gave us the breakdown of how they got it started, things they had in their charter, what they did with family members who didn't want to pay those micro loans back, what they were investing in, things like that. We often hear within our community about redlining, about all of the issues that we've had. And I don't, lessen those issues because they're very real. However, that family didn't say, well, we're only starting with $25 a month per family member and friend who wants to be involved in this. We can't do it. They said, we can do it. We're going to start off small and we're going to grow from there. So it's important for us to be able to say, despite our race, despite our gender, despite our immigration, status, whatever it is, we can overcome if we just put one foot in front of the other and we all work together.
Nice. I definitely appreciate that nugget. And it's definitely huge. And it's so funny how when you were telling that story, I was automatically thinking to what we were talking about as far as the ambitious goal. And I think so many times there's so many things we're even using right now in front of us that were never realistic, would never happen, would never come to fruition. And it's somebody, some entrepreneur, some business owner, somebody that had those ambitious goals that thought about it and saw that vision and took the steps and it may not have been the perfect straight line, which it rarely ever, if ever, is. But I think to be able to continue on, to be able to continue to take those steps and remind yourself that it may not be easy, but if you continue to kind of march on and continue to kind of make sure that you have your vision at the forefront, you can definitely see those visions come to fruition.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. And I agree with you. I absolutely agree. And I think it is important that my second nugget is it's okay to start small. I started
Yeah.
small 20 years ago. I didn't start off with saying, hey, we're going to do the 10K project. We're going to have 1 million people as part of this community. No, I
Yeah.
started off with, hey, can I, get into wholesaling this single house here and make
Mhm.
$5,000, and you work your way up. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too that sometimes when you have, those ambitious visions, sometimes you forget that most successful people start with those seeds. They start small. They start with $5,000, as you mentioned, with the wholesaling.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we forget that, as you mentioned, you worked in your mom's book as a bookkeeping business, and you probably imagine using all of those skills, that information, that knowledge today. And we forget and kind of zoom past all that. We see the success which you're having today, and we forget like the time and the expertise that you spent kind of learning your craft and being able to help out so many businesses.
Absolutely. And not only that, when I started with my mother's business, I don't know if I was being paid minimum wage. um, my first year working in my mother's business, I made $19,000, and I lived with her.
Mhm.
We lived together, I should say, because we were helping build each other. Sometimes that may have to occur. We did another webinar with another gentleman, and when he started his business, he cashed out his 401k to start his business, was now very successful. But one of the questions he and his wife had was, do we need to move in with your parents, in order to get this up and running? And I think that um, it's okay to be humble and to say, you know what, I'm going to contract for a couple of years so that I can expand later.
Mm.
And yeah, so even my mom and I now, so I moved out and now we're living together again in a different house, in a bigger house, and God has blessed us. But, we're contracting again because she's getting older. I knew that I wanted to be in a position to be able to take care of her, and she could age in place and all of that. And that's a blessing too. So yeah, I mean, I do think that the starting small is so important, and it's okay to fail is
Yeah.
another thing. Failure is actually good. A lot of
Mhm.
times we learn more from our failure than we do from our success.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a seeds of being able to kind of figure out how best to correct those failures, so to speak, that we have. And really, they're tremendous learning lessons. And I appreciate you reminding us. A lot of times we have to take a step back in order to take 2 steps forward, but sometimes we don't want to take a step back. But in reality, if we keep our vision at the forefront, we understand that it's a process, it's a marathon, and it's how we are able to kind of get to where we want to be. So now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So Cherie, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Oh, goodness. Being a CEO means, I'm going to say control, equity, and owning your mistakes as well as your successes. So that's CEO. um, so, I like control. I do. I'll admit it. I like control. I get to control my time. I get to control the people that I work with, the people that I surround myself with. However, just as much control as I have, that's also control I don't have as well,
Mm.
because, you, for example, if I had a job, I could be there, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. No one's bothering me on a weekend, and no one's bothering me at night, and I'm not staying up at night tossing and turning, you know,
Mhm.
trying to solve problems. But I like that as well. And then, I like the equity. I like the ownership. I like knowing there's a guy named T. Harv Eker who did something called Speed Wealth back in the 90s. You can still
Mhm.
find it on YouTube. And he said that for entrepreneurs, the biggest asset that you'll have is the business itself that you can sell. So years ago, I did some calculations and I said, okay, if I want to have something that I could live off the interest, I would need to build a business where I could get $3 million, right? Where are you going to get that from a job? It's going to be hard to do that. Not impossible, but hard. However, if you're an investor or if you're an entrepreneur, the chances of that are much easier. So, you know, that's what being a CEO means to me.
Nice. I definitely appreciate that and appreciate that information and knowledge because I think when you start to understand and you see those things, and as you kind of even said as well from the beginning to even where we are now about how we're able to read and to learn and to understand how exactly people develop wealth, that develop equity, and how exactly that happens, that mindset that goes into that, you start to make those shifts, you start to invest, you start to see the power that you have with the dollars that sometimes we have as well too. So I appreciate that definition and appreciate that perspective and appreciate your time even more. What I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you're working on.
Sure, sure. So I just want to invite everyone to come and join our community. It is free to sign up for our email list and get our ebook. It is the10kproject.com, the10kproject.com. So we're building the nation's largest community of Black investors who want to fund Black businesses for as little as $100 per investment. So you can come. We have a ton of free webinars that are coming up. You'll also get access to some of the previous free webinars that we've had because we do believe in financial literacy and in building Black wealth. And then when you're ready, we would love for you to become a member. And what happens is when you become a member, you will get access to our knowledge center for members, either the Investor Knowledge Center or the Entrepreneur Knowledge Center, depending on which one you choose. And you'll have an opportunity to hear all the pitches on the platform and invest in any and all the businesses on the platform. So that is what membership gets you. And, please just consider becoming a part of our ecosystem.
Nice. I definitely appreciate that, Cherie. And what we'll do is we'll have the links and information in the show notes. And I definitely appreciate you for all you're doing and obviously the time that you provided today. I think being able to have those opportunities to build that equity is so important. So I appreciate you for providing that. And also the knowledge within the ecosystem and those opportunities as well too is maybe even more important because I think as we kind of talked about that mindset piece and understanding exactly what you can or cannot accomplish
Mhm.
is often based in your head and the things that you think about and things that you see. So I appreciate you providing all that positivity and the actions in order to do that. So I appreciate you so much and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Gresham. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me.